Raon asked the man in front of him who he was. The man replied that Raon should introduce himself first before asking about others. Raon responded that the man had no right to block someone's way in a narrow alley. He even suspected the man might be a thief or a robber. The man chuckled and said Raon could think whatever he liked, but he wasn't some criminal. He was actually Runaan's older brother. Still unsure, Raon asked if he was really Runaan's brother, since Runaan looked so scared. The man admitted it had been a long time since they last met, and perhaps he had overstepped and frightened her. Raon then pointed out that Runaan's brother had killed a squirrel with his bare hands. How could he treat that like a joke? Runaan's brother explained that the squirrel was just a toy, and even showed his hands to prove there was nothing wrong. But Raon suspected he had simply wiped away any traces of blood using aura. Runaan's brother went on, saying he had only come to give his little sister some snacks. He also complimented Runaan on picking good friends and hoped they would stay close in the future. With that, he apologized for his behavior and left. As it turned out, Raon already knew who Runaan's brother was. He was a genius swordsman, one of the 12 future stars of the continent. He came from the Sulian family, and his name was Syria Sulian, also known as the Azure Sword. Before Raon's regression, he had only heard Syria's name. This was the first time they actually met. Raon wondered silently whether Syria was just cruel or merely pretending to be a hero, because he reminded Raon of Darius. Afterward, Raon reached out his hand to help Runaan to her feet, offering to escort her. When they arrived at the carriage, Runaan thanked Raon for accompanying her. Raon told her to get plenty of rest, as they would be leaving the next day. Back home, Runaan became even more withdrawn. Her brother's return had brought back painful memories. Syria had always acted this way, believing it was the best way to protect Runaan from getting hurt. When she was young, Runaan was injured by her pet squirrel. In response, Syria killed the squirrel. Later, whenever Runaan spoke about it to others, those people would end up getting hurt too. Because of that, Runaan chose to stay silent, believing it was the only way to avoid anyone else getting hurt. At first, she thought she was the only one suffering and alone, but after meeting Raon, she realized they were quite alike. Watching how hard Raon worked to change how others saw him, Runaan began to believe she could change too. They were both trying to transform themselves, but right now, Runaan felt that change was impossible for her, and decided that maybe it was okay if she stayed the same. For now, she just had to endure. The next day, the trainees and Rimmer arrived in the southern region. Rimmer told the group to rest first before starting their mission. Meanwhile, Raon thanked the Wrath Spirit. If it weren't for him, Raon wouldn't have noticed Runaan's brother hiding his presence, and he wouldn't have made it in time to help Runaan that night. The Wrath Spirit then urged Raon to give him control of his body so he could take revenge on Runaan's brother. He even promised to return Raon's body once he was done, all because Runaan had given him his new favorite treat, marble ice cream. Of course, Raon refused, even though the Wrath Spirit seemed serious about it. Raon explained that killing Runaan's brother would be pointless. The damage had already been done. No matter what happened to her brother now, it wouldn't erase the trauma Runaan had suffered. Runaan was the first person who genuinely cared for Raon, and because of that, Raon made a silent vow. He would personally destroy anyone who ever hurt Runaan, whether in this life or the one before. 2 days passed since they arrived in the southern region. Eventually, they reached a village that had been attacked by the Snow Tiger Claw group. There were charred corpses of villagers everywhere. Martha didn't flinch. She was already used to scenes like this. Raon, however, looked around, wondering where Runaan was. He hadn't seen her. It turned out Runaan had wandered into one of the villagers' homes and stumbled upon a corpse. The sight overwhelmed her, and she fought the urge to vomit. Rimmer gathered all the trainees and explained that everything they had just witnessed was the work of the Snow Tiger group. He told them to burn this sight into their hearts and never forget it, so that when they faced Snow Tiger, they wouldn't hesitate for even a second. Rimmer then handed out special whistles. Normal people wouldn't be able to hear the sound. Only those with trained senses could. If anyone found themselves in danger, they were to blow the whistle immediately, and Rimmer would come running. However, he also warned them. Snow Tiger's swords showed no mercy. So, rather than relying solely on the whistle, they should try to handle the situation themselves first. Afterward, the trainees were ordered to form groups. Meanwhile, Runaan was still haunted by her brother's words, how he had promised to kill anyone who dared hurt her. As she stood there lost in thought, Raon approached and asked if she wanted to team up. Runaan agreed, and they set off together. As they moved, Raon began analyzing the possible whereabouts of the Snow Tiger group. Following his instincts, he led Runaan toward a nearby hill. The Wrath Spirit reappeared, teasing Raon about how much he seemed to worry about Runaan. Yet, he never actually talked to her about it. Raon admitted he didn't know what to say. After all, he wasn't even sure how he felt about his own mother. How could he possibly give advice to someone else about family matters? The only thing Raon was certain of was how terribly Runaan's brother had treated her. At the top of the hill, they discovered a hidden forest, just as Raon had predicted. The enemy's tracks had been carefully concealed, enough to fool the average person, but not Raon. His experience as an assassin before his regression made him far more perceptive. Raon told Runaan that they were close to the enemy's base. From now on, she needed to stay completely silent and just follow his lead. The path itself was clear of traps, except for one at the entrance to the enemy's base. Peeking into the camp, they spotted the Snow Tiger members, along with a hostage, a young child. Raon carefully assessed the situation. His decision was clear. They had to save the child. He asked Runaan to help by using her mana to muffle any sounds during the rescue. Runaan stepped forward and activated her mana, creating a sound barrier. Meanwhile, Raon rushed in and swiftly took down the two bandits in front of him. But when Runaan saw the bandits killed, her trauma resurfaced. She dropped to her knees, screaming, and the mana she was using to suppress sound shattered. Frozen by fear, Runaan became an easy target. One of the bandits moved in to strike her, but Raon quickly intervened, saving her just in time. He subdued the bandit and demanded answers. Resigned to his fate, the bandit spilled everything he knew. It turned out there was another hostage inside the cave, the sibling of the child Raon had just rescued. Hearing this, Runaan declared that she would save the other hostage, telling the child not to worry. But Raon warned her, "It's not that easy. Don't make promises you can't keep." Right after, Runaan blew the special whistle Rimmer had given them. However, the sound was picked up by someone inside the cave, and more enemies emerged. Without hesitation, Raon threatened the new group, offering a trade. "Release the hostage, or your men die." The enemy leader just laughed and threatened to kill the young girl instead. Seeing the situation escalate, Raon quietly told Runaan to turn away. Then, without mercy, he struck down the bandit holding the girl hostage and launched an attack on the rest. Runaan quickly joined in, using her abilities to disrupt the enemy's senses. Together, they managed to rescue both hostages and retreat from the immediate danger. Afterward, Raon instructed Runaan to stay and protect the children while he finished off the remaining bandits. But Runaan grabbed his arm, pleading with him not to go, worried because Raon was still injured. Raon calmly explained, "Yes, the battlefield is terrifying, but what's even more terrifying is being paralyzed by fear and unable to act. We are swordsmen of the Zekart family. It's our duty to carry on the legacy of those who came before us and protect those who remain." He continued, "I don't know exactly what your brother did to you, but the more you let fear control you, the larger that shadow grows. You can't spend your whole life running from it. Only you can protect yourself and the people you love." Raon then added, "From now on, your choices are your own. You don't have to hide in the shadows anymore." Moved by Raon's words, Runaan gathered her courage. She refused to stay shackled by her past any longer. Meanwhile, Raon returned to the fight, cutting down many of the remaining bandits. Suddenly, the bandit leader attacked him. Raon narrowly dodged and countered with a powerful strike, killing him instantly. The other bandits stared in shock, wondering how a kid could be this strong. Just as Raon was about to declare the battle over, he was ambushed again. It turned out the one he had killed wasn't the real leader. The true leader now revealed himself. Unlike the others, he was a skilled swordsman, forcing Raon into a tougher fight. At the same time, Runaan was being cornered by another group of bandits. Raon's focus wavered, worried for her safety. Runaan, still haunted by her brother's shadow, froze. But then she heard Raon shout to her, "You can protect them! Don't be afraid!" Those words broke through her fear. Runaan gathered her strength and defeated the bandits threatening her. With Runaan safe, Raon could finally focus. He unleashed his aura and used a devastating technique, completely overwhelming the real bandit leader. With the battle over, Raon checked the bandits' loot, and among the treasures he found a rare elixir, the two-tone flower. Suddenly a man appeared and asked if they were the ones who had killed the bandits. Raon calmly answered, "Yes, we did. Why do you ask?" The man introduced himself as Rictor. Hearing that name triggered Raon's memory. He remembered Rictor as a renowned martial artist, known for his extraordinary skills. Rictor was famous for joining the North and South Alliance using only his sword, and for leading a large group of bandits in the mountains for over a decade. Rictor then guessed that Raon and Runaan were Zekart trainees, noting the lack of a family crest on their swords. He began to consider whether he should kill them. As he unleashed his killing intent, Raon, who had once lived as an assassin, remained unfazed. Even though Raon knew he couldn't defeat Rictor with his current skills, for some reason, he felt no urge to back down. Drawing his sword, Raon stood his ground and challenged Rictor to attack. Raon knew that if Rictor unsheathed his blade, it would likely mean death. But he wasn't afraid to die. Seeing Raon's fearless stance, Rictor decided he had no desire to fight him. He said he would regret killing someone like Raon now. Rictor added that even if he were to seize the elixir Raon carried, he would end up dead anyway, because the fierce wind that had been watching them would not let him leave alive. With that, Rictor turned to leave, asking Raon for his name before going. He said he would wait for the day he would hear Raon's name echo across the mountains, Terukan, and the Rabel River. Afterward, Raon and Runaan returned to the children and safely made their way back to Martha village. Burin was once again frustrated that he had fallen behind Raon. Meanwhile, Rimmer was busy giving advice to the other trainees. After their mission, Raon and Runaan were summoned by the family head. Both were awarded bronze medals for their achievements. The family head even praised them, and much to Raon's surprise, he returned the elixir Raon had obtained during the mission. After the ceremony, Raon went home, where he found Dorian waiting for him. Raon immediately panicked. Dorian had already told his mother everything. Soon, Raon's mother appeared and asked him if what she heard was true. Raon was speechless. She walked up to him, pulled him into a tight hug, and said, "You did a great job, Raon." Raon was stunned. He had expected her to scold him, since she had always warned him to be careful. But instead, his mother explained, "The first head of the family swung his sword to protect the weak. Why would I scold you for doing the same? For saving those hostages?" In fact, she was proud of him. Raon, unfamiliar with such overwhelming emotions, struggled to process it all. When he turned around, he realized Dorian had already slipped away. The Wrath Spirit appeared, teasing, "Finally noticed, huh? That kid ran off a long time ago." That night, Raon thought to himself, this wasn't such a bad night after all. Meanwhile, Runaan had gained newfound confidence, successfully overcoming her trauma thanks to Raon's words during their mission. And as it turned out, Rimmer had been secretly observing Raon's encounter with Rictor the whole time. The fierce wind Rictor spoke of, it was Rimmer himself watching over them. After everything that happened during the mission, Rimmer began to believe that Raon resembled the first head of the Zekart family and considered him a promising seed for a future king. Meanwhile, at the Robert family residence, Darius was busy writing something. He glanced down at a wound on his hand, a wound that still hadn't healed. It was the same wound he had received from Raon, the assassin, 17 years ago. Despite using countless elixirs, consulting expert doctors, and even renowned priests, nothing had been able to heal it. The wound neither festered nor closed. Instead, it remained, as if forcing Darius to constantly remember his true self. Darius wondered if the spirits of the dead were compelling him to remember them. But unfortunately, Darius was not the type to dwell on the past. He simply didn't have time to waste before realizing his ambitions. Elsewhere, Raon had achieved the rank of sword expert. His stats had risen along with his advancement. Reaching this level hadn't been easy. He had fought tooth and nail for it. The Wrath Spirit emerged and sneered, saying that even sword masters were nothing but insects to him, let alone mere sword experts. So, Raon shouldn't be so proud. Raon replied that becoming a sword expert at just 15 years old was incredibly rare, and it would be hard to find anyone else like him across the continent. The Wrath Spirit scoffed, saying only fools cared about age on the battlefield. Weakness was weakness, no matter how old you were. Raon agreed, admitting that no one would show mercy just because he was young. The Wrath Spirit added that even now, Raon's strength was no match for just one of his claws, but hearing that made Raon chuckle. In the past, the Wrath Spirit wouldn't even have bothered mentioning something like a claw. To Raon, this was a small acknowledgement of his growth, even if the Wrath Spirit angrily denied it. Raon teased him, saying it was obvious the spirit had recognized his progress. Infuriated, the Wrath Spirit insisted he would never acknowledge a mere human, but Raon continued to poke fun at him. The scene then shifts to the training ground. Rimmer called out to everyone, telling them to stop for the day. Their training was over. Burn protested, asking for an extra 20 minutes to make up for Rimmer's tardiness. But Rimmer ignored him and immediately ran off. Raon took over, instructing everyone to finish up their exercises and asking the assigned team to start cleaning the training hall. Meanwhile, Dorian was opening his locker when he suddenly screamed. Martha was standing right next to him. She ordered the others to clear out, saying she would handle the cleaning herself. Just then, Rimmer returned, remembering something he had forgotten to announce. He informed them that they had received their second mission. It had been 6 months since their first mission, and this time, they were being sent to Cebu Village, in the southeastern territory of Zekart, to eliminate the orcs threatening the villagers. In short, it was an orc subjugation mission. Everyone was excited. They had been waiting for a mission like this. However, Rimmer revealed that he wouldn't be accompanying them. Byrne asked what they should do if they encountered serious danger. Rimmer simply said that dealing with such situations was part of the test. Even knowing when to retreat and survive was a skill, and the leader's judgment would be critical. He added that they would depart in 2 days at dawn. The announcement stunned everyone. Only 2 days to prepare. Rimmer explained that an extermination mission required much more urgency and focus compared to escort or dungeon exploration missions, so they had to be ready. Byrne complained about the lack of preparation time, but Raon immediately stepped up, calming everyone by reminding them that missions could come at any time, without warning. Now wasn't the time to panic. It was time to prepare. Hearing Raon's words helped steady the others' nerves. Meanwhile, Rimmer gave one final warning. Orcs were far more savage and powerful. Even their sheer size alone was unlike any monster they had faced before. He advised them to focus on dodging, rather than trying to endure hits, because facing orcs head-on would be far too dangerous for them right now. Especially since they would be outnumbered, the battles would be chaotic and overwhelming. The next day, Raon was getting ready to set out on his mission. The Wrath Spirit warned him that unexpected things could happen at any time, so Raon shouldn't assume everything would go according to plan. Just then, Raon's mother suddenly entered his room, surprising him. She looked upset, furious even, because Raon hadn't informed her beforehand. Raon asked how she had found out. He figured it must have been Dorian who told her, but it turned out it was Rimmer who had informed her. Raon quickly apologized. His mother then told him that being the top member wasn't just about receiving honors, it was a position of responsibility. He had to lead the others in a better direction. It wasn't enough to simply complete the mission. He had to guide his teammates and minimize any losses. The lives of the others would depend on Raon's decisions. She reminded him that while subjugating monsters might sound easy, it was actually a difficult mission. They had to completely eliminate the enemy to ensure no villagers would be harmed. She warned Raon to always remember, he wasn't just a trainee anymore. He was a swordsman of Sieghart. Raon thought his mother might scold him, and she truly was angry, but she held it back, knowing this wasn't the right time for it. Even though she was deeply worried for him, departure time arrived. Rimmer addressed everyone, reminding them that anything could happen out there. He warned them not to trust anything too easily, and if things ever felt overwhelming, they shouldn't hesitate. Just retreat immediately. Without wasting more time, Rimmer ordered them to move out. Normally, the journey would have taken about a month, but since the roads had been cleared, they would now reach their destination in just 2 weeks. Raon took charge, commanding the group to form 4 lines and move according to their assigned squads. It wasn't just Raon's physical strength and aura that stood out, his mental fortitude and keen perception were also something to be proud of. Because of that, Rimmer believed Raon and the others would handle this mission well. But in truth, Rimmer had lied to the trainees. He had said he wouldn't accompany them, but he actually planned to secretly follow and watch over them from the shadows. Meanwhile, a suspicious group, looking very much like assassins, was also gathering, and they too were heading toward the same village Raon and his group were traveling to. This video ends here, but the story isn't over yet. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next part.